So we had instant articles rolling out in March. We then had Google. Don't forget, this is a war about who controls the mobile, who controls your app. So Google then launched something called the Digital News Initiative, and Google News Labs, which was romancing publishers and saying, don't go to Facebook, because they'll get Emily. Well, you can go to Facebook, but we will make it possible for your pages to load really quickly, which had been one of the problems that publishers had had. That's why Facebook Instant Articles was appealing to them. And we will make it within Google. And you can put all of your articles into that system as well. You can still keep them on your own website, which will be very slow, and nobody will ever go there, and nobody will look at your articles on your own website. But you can also go through our system. You don't have to be just on Snapchat Discover, just on Facebook Instance. Then in September, Apple, the largest company in America, says we're going to launch a news app, a news reader. Does anybody here look at Apple News? You're very good. You have everything. You literally look at everything. This is amazing. They launched Apple News, which is meant to be like a very swift aggregator of all this news. Again, it's basically putting all of your content as a publisher into the Apple system, which will show your articles very quickly to other people. It doesn't have a social component to it, but again, it was Apple saying we must have something that keeps people within the app. And then Twitter hired for something called Project Lightning and launched Moments, which is, if you're on Twitter and you go to Moments, it's a terrible product, but it's really, again, telling you those stories without you ever having to leave the app. These were suddenly in the last year, this has all happened in the last 12 months. So from really sort of being not fully integrated with the social web, publishers have been invited to be absolutely not just fully integrated, but to hand over all of their journalism. And actually, sort of, they've been increasingly deciding that that's the way they should go. Figures that were out in December said that the early trialists of Facebook Instant Articles were seeing 3 or 4 times the traffic to instant articles than they were back to their own websites for the same material. So in other words, the early testing suggests that actually these things are, and particularly Facebook, is working. But something else was happening at the same time that we were getting all these shiny new toys. It sounds very promising, this. So say, well, what's the problem? Publishers now have this new home. It's great that they're integrated with the social web because we can all maintain our independence, right? We can maintain our presence as separate publishers. Not so fast. At the same time that Apple was launching Apple News in September, it also allowed what they call ad blocking software to be listed in the Apple Store for the first time. Now, ad blocking software is the thing that stops you from seeing any of those terrible ads that pop up as you scroll through your phone. It stops your data usage being so high, it costs you less money. And people, of course, like using them because ads are intrusive and annoying. And what this meant was that at the same time that you were being enticed to publish directly into apps which actually largely are not affected by ad blockers, you were having one of the alternative streams of revenue, in other words, from your own mobile publishing, taken away. So if you combine the idea that all use is going to mobile phones, if you're going to be seen as a news publisher, you have to be on mobile. You combine that with the fact that you're more easily seen if you go through a social app or a separate filter. And then if you don't do that, and you're trying to make money through advertising, there is now software listed by Apple that has its own news product, which stops you from making any money at all. So, we're seeing the use of medium-sized carrots and very big sticks, which is driving commercial publishers into, sometimes willingly, into this new world. What would you do then if you're a commercial publisher? There are probably 3 possibilities. First of all, just embrace it. Just go with it. Just say, publishing is over. That's happened. The money that you can make now from being an independent publisher outside this system is uncertain and it's very low. As a publisher said to me of a major news organisation in the States. We've looked at the figures that we get back from instant articles. We've looked at the figures we're likely to get from mobile advertising. For us, we honestly don't know how it could be worse. We've only got things to gain through going all in with instant articles. But there are risks. You lose absolute control of, you lose that link between yourself and the audience. You lose, you get some of your own data back, but you lose sight of how your stories are being shared or read in comparison to other people's stories. And you give a lot of your valuable relationship data to Facebook as well. The second option is to build another business completely and revenues away from distributed platforms. So in other words, the second option is basically not to be in publishing in the traditional sense at all, but actually to start to build a membership business or a subscription business or an events business or some other type of revenue, cross-subsidy. I sit on the board of The Guardian. The Guardian is financed by the endowment from a trust, which is financed by the sale of businesses that it's previously owned. I think that model, and I think the not-for-profit model, is going to just grow in terms of news delivery for all these reasons. And then the third, of course, is to make advertising that doesn't look like advertising at all. So if you remember how important it is, for all of these reasons, to integrate your experience with mobile, to not be blocked by an ad blocker, and to get in front of people, then the thing to do is to actually make advertising that just looks like editorial. So the growth of what we call native advertising has been huge. It's now 22% of mobile, what we call mobile display advertising, which is a really significant proportion considering that 5 years ago this wasn't a business at all. And in fact, companies like BuzzFeed and Vox, and, well, particularly Vice, actually, which is not quite the same because it has a magazine as well, but companies like BuzzFeed and Vice have decided to re-engineer a completely different bit of the publishing chain. And what they're effectively becoming are engines for what we call native advertising, where you can't really tell. You should be able to tell if you're reading an ad, or you're seeing a piece of journalism, or if it's a sponsored piece of content, or if it's been made by an advertiser. Sometimes, I think with the companies, the respectable companies, and I'd put Vice and BuzzFeed into that category, it's pretty clearly labelled. Sometimes with others, it's not. So suddenly we're in a world where we don't quite know where our information is being paid for from. We don't quite know if it's an ad. We don't quite know if it's been sponsored. I actually did read something on BuzzFeed about how much 24 ways to tell if you're a really outdoorsy person. And I don't think it was advertising, but there was a North Face coat in it twice. And I was like, ooh. So we don't know. We don't know. It's very obscure.